Sorry, I'm late. But you know me, I set the bar low so that it can be met every time. So here I am. Um, Hit 6,000 subscribers. That's cool. Um, I was just looking at my YouTube page, and 5,000 was about 2 months ago. And I'm just going to open it up here again. Since 5,000, had a lot of interesting guests. We had Nick Gillespie on the show. Had a couple Four Horsemen episodes. We had the one with Scott Horton, and then the one with Liberty Lockdown, and then the one with Sean Atwood, obviously. I had an interesting guy named Ryan Hogue on the show to talk about Bitcoin and a few other things. Had Jeremy Kaufman on, and a few interesting conversations. So it's been good. There's a lot going on right now with the war in Afghanistan finally seeming to come to an end. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Yeah. So, well, let's just get into that right now. I talked to Scott Horton on the phone for like 45 minutes today about it and about some other things too. But what I'm seeing happen is a lot of people are taking an unrealistic approach to how this was going to end. So, I mean, the Taliban was always going to take over. I don't think that was ever really in question. So the idea that the Taliban took over the country is a disaster and this never could have been seen beforehand, it's just ridiculous. Of course, the Taliban was going to take the entire country back. They took it back faster than I think everyone thought they would. But I've been very impressed with Joe Biden. I know it's going to piss a lot of you guys off, but I don't really care. I did not expect him to actually pull out. Like, I couldn't believe he's actually going through with it. I didn't think Trump was going to actually pull out. I thought that was a political stunt because of what happened in Syria. We never actually really left Syria, even though he talked about it big. I thought it was going to be the same thing in Afghanistan. And then honestly, I thought even less of Biden. But he's actually doing it. I really can't believe it. But, I'm not a partisan. I don't give a fuck who the president is. They all suck. Joe Biden's a drug warrior, a war criminal, a creep. There's nothing. I have zero respect for the man. I hate him. But someone you hate can still do something right. So to me, the only thing that Biden has done wrong in this scenario is breaking Trump's deal with the Taliban and then moving it from May to September. And Scott Horton was talking about this, that there would have been a period of transition in between, Trump's withdrawal date and when the Taliban took over. But since Biden basically flipped them off, said, no, we're staying till September, then that transition period goes away. And that's why you're having this overlap that we're having now. But it does seem like there's sort of a make-believe crisis going on in Kabul at the Bagram Air Base, because the planes are leaving, but they're not being attacked by the Taliban. The Taliban hasn't cut off the airport and started, shooting mortars at it or killing people or whatever. There are planes flying in and out of there constantly, and there's horrible images of people grabbing onto the landing gear and taking off and falling from several hundred feet to their deaths. But I don't really understand why that's happening. It seems like they're freaking out over possibly nothing. Obviously, if the Taliban does attack, then it'll be different. But why would the Taliban attack U.S. forces? It doesn't really make any sense. It'd be a really stupid move. So I feel like they're trying to make this look like as much of a disaster as they can. And a lot of libertarians are feeding right into that narrative. And I don't like it. I don't like when libertarians are basically feeding the talking points of the neocons. They're doing that with Cuba a month ago. They did it with Venezuela, with China, with the Uyghurs. It's just like, guys, just stop making their arguments for them. we're actually ending a war. So if you could try to focus on the goodness of that actually taking place. As far as like all the weapons falling into the hands of the Taliban, those weapons were for the Afghani army. So a lot of these people that are making that argument they're contradicting themselves. They're like, I can't believe we didn't, leave. We didn't have a plan. Like we didn't have a plan to leave a secure force there to keep the Taliban from taking over. And then at the same time, they're complaining the Taliban is getting all these weapons that were for the Afghani army that fell in days because they're fucking useless. The real issue there was giving the Afghani army all that equipment in the first place. We shouldn't have been giving it to them. We shouldn't have been in Afghanistan at all. I don't even support the original AUMF. Like I think Ron Paul's idea of mark and reprisal for just killing Osama bin Laden, that's really the only justification I could see. Barbara Lee, by the way, was the only representative in Congress to vote against the AUMF. So shout out to Barbara Lee. You're the only one who made the right vote. And then, big shout out to Ron Paul and Dennis Kucinich and Mike Gravel, people early on who were saying we shouldn't stay there. We need to get out. That the only purpose to be there at all was to take out Al-Qaeda and not try to take out the Taliban or try to create a new government there or democracy. It's so ridiculous because some of these same people who are, decrying regime change and how horrible that is and how nation building doesn't work, they're also complaining that the Taliban doesn't respect women's rights. And it's like, what do you think? How do you think you're going to attain women's rights without regime change in Afghanistan? Of course, you would need like an entirely new governing system, a new way of thinking. Like that is nation building. This idea that you think nation building is a waste of time, but you can't handle the fact that the Taliban doesn't respect women's rights. Like that's the way it is. And this also just points to the larger picture that libertarians need to stop being utopian in the way they think. I mean, when we pull out of these countries, there's going to be chaos. It's not like everyone's just going to, lay flowers on the ground as we're leaving and say, oh, thank you. You're gone. Now we're just going to govern ourselves and everything's going to be fine. Like, of course, if we completely leave, Iraq or Afghanistan like we are now, like things are going to fall apart. That's always been what was going to happen. So we need to stop lying to ourselves. I compared this to the financial crisis of 2008. If we had done nothing like we should have in 2008, a lot of people would have lost money that were invested in the banks. A lot of people. But that's what we should have done. We should have let the banks fail. We should have let people go under instead of prolonging the crisis. We need to take that same approach to the countries that were in the Middle East. Like when we pull out of there, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be a disaster. And all the neocons are going to be saying, see, we told you we need to stay there forever. And we can't. Like we need to leave and things are not going to be good over there. But to lie to ourselves that we're making them better or that we're making progress. I mean, we were in Afghanistan for 20 fucking years. And the government that we set up lasted a few days. And that's not really why we were there. We weren't really there to create a new government and protect women's rights. Like that's such bullshit. We were there for the fucking poppy fields and, it's such a lie that this was some sort of investment that we were going to make out on. And so stop feeding into that propaganda and backing it up and saying like, oh man, like, we should have had a plan. We should have left in an organized way. So this wasn't going to happen. It was going to happen. And this isn't defending Biden or like standing for Biden or something. I fucking hate Biden. It's just, he actually is pulling us out and that's good. Like forget it's Biden, forget who it is. Just the fact that we're actually leaving Afghanistan, regardless of the shit show we're leaving behind, is good. And like I said, I think the only mistake here that Biden made was breaking the deal with the Taliban and, basically having this collision of the Taliban taking over before we've completely left because we broke the deal. Things would have been smoother otherwise. And then, if you're going to blame all the weaponry that's there, that goes to Bush and Obama and probably some to Trump, but much less to Trump, and then a tiny, tiny bit to Biden. And that's also standard operating procedure, is to leave the weapons there. I was listening to Justin O'Donnell, he's a veteran. He was talking about how it's cheaper to leave weapons over there than try to ship them all home. And I've heard that other places too. So, I think it's completely fair to criticize whatever you want, especially if you're living in Afghanistan. Like, they should have brought all those weapons back and given them to the American people. Just said, like, here, this is your tax dollars anyway. Come get your ammo, come get your M16s. Like, yeah, duh. We're libertarians. Like, we've got way better ideas as to how to deal with this. But, on a bell curve of realism and how this could have possibly gone, aside from, continuing Trump's plan, which would have been better, I don't really see anything wrong with what Biden has done. And I know hoes are going to be mad about that, but, you can go fuck yourselves. I have always said what I think is true and what I think is right. And it has the tendency to piss off a lot of people sometimes, but that's why people watch me. That's why people follow me on Twitter, because they know my takes are going to be interesting and consistent and in line with what I think, not what everyone around me thinks. And luckily, I ended up aligning with Scott Horton on this, which is someone you want to align with. And it's funny because I wasn't actually waiting to hear what he had to say. This is just what I had to say. And then he ended up going on Kennedy, basically saying the exact same thing I did. And then I talked to him on the phone this morning, and I was like, man, it seems that libertarians hate Biden more than they hate war. And he kind of agreed, and I mean, that's just, it's sad, because I thought we were the party of principle, not the party of, we only like it when our guy does it. And we've never had a guy in there anyway, so I don't know why we would care. But all the people suddenly caring about women in Afghanistan, are just like the people who suddenly started caring about the Kurds when Trump in fall of 2019 said we were going to pull troops out of Syria. It was just, oh, the Kurds, we've betrayed our allies. How could we betray our allies? The Kurds, just like all this bawling over people that Americans didn't even know existed the day before. A lot of them who were suddenly, like Joy Behar on The View, she didn't care about the fucking Kurds the day before Trump was trying to pull troops out of Syria. The same with the women in Afghanistan. No one has cared about them at all, ever, until we suddenly decide we're going to end a war. And then suddenly it's the biggest humanitarian crisis that you've ever seen. To me, the biggest difference between Syria and Afghanistan is we're not leaving soldiers to guard the poppy fields, where we still have fucking troops in Syria guarding the oil. That to me was, when Trump was talking about moving troops out of Syria, that was the only thing I was angry at him for, was that we were leaving troops in Syria to guard the oil instead of just pulling them all out. And the ones that we did pull out, we sent to Iraq, and we didn't actually pull that many out. A lot of them we just moved off the border because the Turkish troops were advancing, and we just sent them kind of inland. And it was portrayed as though it was this giant withdrawal from Syria and that we were just leaving it, behind, and it was all over or whatever. And that just wasn't accurate. It wasn't really what was going on. But it does seem like that's actually happening here. And the troops that have been sent back in, they're just evacuation troops. There's only 7,000 of them. To take on the whole Taliban and start the war over again, you would need tens of thousands of troops. So some people think like, oh no, see, he's, the war's starting over again. I doubt it. If it of course, obviously, if the war starts over again, like, everything I'm saying goes out the window. Like, fuck him. I don't understand why people can't get that. Like, if he pulls them out of Afghanistan and he sends them somewhere else, or he starts his own domestic war on terror that he keeps talking about. Like, of course, any credit he has goes out the window, but this isn't about Biden. It's about leaving Afghanistan. So I support the choice to end the war in Afghanistan. He's not even doing something good. He's just stopping something that was bad. Like, he stopped doing something bad. So cool. Yeah, I don't know. That's been interesting to see how people have been processing that. And I don't know if you guys saw Biden's speech, but it's probably the best speech I've seen given by a president in my lifetime. I'm 27. So, Clinton was president when I was born. He definitely said some shit in there that I didn't like, but most of it was the idea, like, we've been in Afghanistan 20 years. It doesn't matter if we stay there 1 more year, 5 more years, 10 more years, 20 more years. Afghanistan needs to take care of itself. We're not here to police the entire world. We need to face threats. This is the part I disagreed with, like what he was saying, the new threats are, or whatever, that we need to focus on. Like, that's what I'm worried about. I'm wondering, like, okay, after you get us out of here, where are these new threats you're going to reallocate all these troops to? But his point about Afghanistan was absolutely correct. And I got to be honest, I didn't expect him to say that. Like, once I saw he was giving a speech, I was thinking, like, oh God, here we go. He's going to say, well, we got to go back in. And then he was just kind of like, Afghanistan, get fucked. I was like, whoa, Jesus. So it's been weird. Those of you who have been following me for a while, you might remember when Donald Trump said he was going to veto the COVID relief bill that passed right before Christmas. So I don't know. I mean, I've got a lot more subscribers than I did back then. But I did a video praising Donald Trump, which weirded out a lot of my viewers and people who followed me on Twitter. And I was like, Trump is absolutely right to veto this bill. It's got so much crap in it. It's got so much pork, so much going to foreign countries, going to corporations, to the military, you name it. He wants to take all the pork out and cut the bill by like 75% and just send checks to people. And it's going to be more money to all the people. And I wasn't a fan of stimulus in general, but if you're going to do stimulus, the only way you should do it is sending out checks directly to people, because then the market will decide where that money goes, instead of like trying to bail out some fucking airline or something, or send small business grants or whatever. Like, if you're going to do stimulus, you just got to do the direct payments. But I was singing his praises. And I remember even saying, like, if he vetoes this bill, I might buy a fucking MAGA hat and wear it around. And it wasn't about Trump. Like, I didn't care that, Trump was doing this. I just cared that the right thing was being done. And that's all I care about right now, too. So I'd suggest you guys, get some principles instead of, deciding to like or hate certain politicians more than others and then base your decisions on that. Because, I mean, to me, they all fucking suck, other than a few of them. And, it's just a wash. Like, it makes me wonder, like, if we somehow got a libertarian president someday, it would be harder to remain consistent, because you'd actually have a horse in the game. Like, I just haven't ever had a horse in the game that had a serious chance. So it's never been hard to just criticize everything that's been going on. Just call the shots as you see them, like, not really take a side, just stand by your principles. So, I don't know. It makes me wonder, like, if we actually somehow became a thing someday, what would that look like? Would we actually remain principled, or would we become just like the Democrats and Republicans? But anyways, yeah, thanks for all the new subscriptions. I do have some very exciting interviews coming up. Next Saturday is Peter Schiff, which is amazing. I think I first heard Peter back in 2014. And I saw his Occupy Wall Street video, which I believe was filmed in 2010. But man, that video really opened my eyes. And then I listened to him a little over the years. And then in 2019, I started listening to him a lot. And he was talking about how the economy was about to go through a reset, and they had to find some excuse to, do all these bailouts and drop interest rates again. And then sure enough, the coronavirus comes around, and everything that he had been talking about that whole year throughout 2019 all happened in early 2020. And that was a massive red pill for me. It was really cool or I shouldn't say cool, because a lot of people are getting fucked over by it, but it was amazing to hear ahead of time him saying like all these things that were going to happen, and then literally just seeing it all fall apart in front of my eyes exactly the way he said it would. So, I mean, if you were a guy who started listening to Peter Schiff in 2011, you might not be doing so well. If you bought a lot of gold in 2011, that probably hurt. But I actually started listening to him seemingly at the right time. It seems like we're in a different stage of economic collapse and reset at this point than we were 10 years ago. So I'm really looking forward to having him on. That's going to be really cool. Like I said, next Saturday. And then Abby Martin, she was supposed to come on this month, but she's been really busy, and I've been emailing with her. She's going to probably be coming on the first week of October. And then the ever elusive Tulsi Gabbard is still on duty. So that is still up in the air until she gets off duty. And then, we'll see. We'll schedule something once she gets off. So I'm just waiting to find out about that. And then Matt Kibbe and I are going to be doing something. I sent him an email recently. We saw each other at Pork Fest and Freedom Fest, and we're going to be, I don't know if we're going on each other's shows or just his or just mine or what's going on, but there's going to be something going on there. I'm also trying to shift this channel a little bit. I've tried to have more blue collar workers on, just to talk about life and kind of libertarian ideas that permeate life, instead of strictly about politics or just about, just about like the Libertarian Party or something. Like I'd rather talk about these ideas as they relate to real life circumstances. So that'll be cool. Let's see, I had Tommy Salmons on, then I had what's his name? Will Bell on recently. And, there's a trucker and a blueberry farmer. And I just find it a lot more interesting when you can have a discussion that there's been some sort of tangible relation to your philosophy, instead of just head up in the cloud stuff or theoretical stuff. So I'm going to be trying to move the show in that direction. We got a super chat here. Thoughts about the New Hampshire Free State Project? Well, by the way, guys, if you want to ask me a question, throw me a super chat and I'll try to answer it. Free State Project. So I had Jeremy Kaufman on the show, 2 weeks ago, maybe. And when I was still in New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders won the primary for president in 2020. That I left like in early 2020. So Bernie Sanders won the primary, which was like, wow, really? The live free or die state, voting for Bernie. And then they were passing red flag laws, and I think it passed the House and the Senate in New Hampshire, and Republicans, had to vote for it to get that way, and they did. And I think the governor ended up vetoing them. But property taxes are super high. There's this ongoing joke about liberals moving up from Massachusetts and ruining the state. But when I had Jeremy Kaufman on a couple of weeks ago, I guess things are turning around. I guess the government of New Hampshire is being taken over by libertarian-minded people. It sounds like the Libertarian Party has been uncucked recently there. That was, just in case some of you guys aren't like Libertarian Party people, that was a huge kerfuffle. The LNC tried to steal the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire from itself and give it to somebody else, and that led to a whole giant mess that ended up resulting in like half of the Libertarian Party resigning almost, which is great But actually, I do want to talk about that for a second. I'm not sure it's great because, the whole like Mises Caucus versus Prague Caucus thing. What I've realized is people need a struggle all the time. They need an enemy. Like they can't just focus on the task at hand and realize the big picture. Like the real enemy isn't enough. Like they need an enemy within their movement that they are more pure than. So when the Prague Caucus dissolved, that was actually bad for the Libertarian Party because now you've got pretty much like just the Mises Caucus, and now it's turned into this like post-libertarian versus Mises Caucus battle. And it's also turning into like this religious versus non-religious battle, or open borders versus closed. I mean, it went from like the wishy-washy kind of mealy mouth, like boring people versus the based people, to now that like all the based people are starting to fight each other, and it's super gay, super retarded, but it sucks. So that's what's been happening since the whole New Hampshire kerfuffle took place. We got another one here. Any thoughts on the Afghan war being ended because pharma corporations are making all their money on vaccines now and don't need opium anymore? Yeah, I've seen some memes going around about that, and some people talked about that. I mean, I don't know, because the withdrawal was already planned. I'm trying to remember what month Trump started it. It was like, man, I can't even remember now. I remember him talking about it in shit. I don't know. Someone drop it in there if you remember what month that even started. I don't even remember anymore. So you could get into conspiracy, like, well, was the coronavirus planned from back then too? Is it all a giant, big thing? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't pretend to know that type of stuff. I'm not going to make any claims like that. So I really don't know. That's an interesting thought, an interesting correlation that's going on there. But that is why we were in Afghanistan, by the way. It had nothing to do with women's rights or taking out Al-Qaeda, or, that was the initial excuse, I guess. But that was why we were in Afghanistan for sure. Let's see what we got here. If only we could all make the enemy the Zionists. Yeah, I mean, that's why I like Ryan, because he punches up. Like, he's living in Japan, first of all, so he's not really dealing with this inner party bullshit drama crap. But yeah, I mean, like, we should care about the CIA, the foreign policy establishment, Saudi Arabia, Israel, like these countries that are just not working in our interests but are sucking us dry. That is what we should be focusing on, but it's not. Like, we've just got to be more pure than the guy next to us, and it's I don't know, it's kind of gay. I see you there, Jose. I guess you're my best bud, so you punch every direction. I think you made some other comments, but you're not paying me any money, so it kind of hurts my feelings. But yeah, I don't know, guys. The Libertarian Party, to me, is just like a vehicle for getting people's attention. Like, I don't think of it as a way to win the presidency and change policy. I think it's just a vehicle for waking people up, because that's how I was woken up. It wasn't through reading books or watching podcasts. It was people running for president. And I think that's the way it is for most people. So that's why I'm still involved in the Libertarian Party. And as this country continues to fall apart, I think that, it's good to have some sort of entity that we can kind of use as some sort of, home base or foundation to stand on, whatever you want to call it. I mean, you got like the Mises Institute and things like that too. So I don't know, but I think like having a party that puts candidates forward that can bring attention to these issues is a good idea. And so that's why I'm a member. And actually, where's my card anyway? I got a card right here somewhere. Oh yeah, I'm officially a card carrying member. I know that's super gay, but I am now, so I can actually vote in the. Sorry, I'm tired. You guys can probably tell, but vote in the convention. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm voting for Angela McArdle next year. So I don't know. I figured if I have this podcast and I'm telling people what to do and everything, I should actually get involved. But, I'm not interested in the Republican Party or the Democrat Party. They're super fucked. And the Libertarian Party has been fucked, but we're sort of unfucking it right now, it seems. It just, like I said, it depends on if people are going to be able to focus on the enemy or if they're just going to keep fighting inward and trying to out purist each other. So if that's the goal, I don't know. Then I don't really see a desirable end. I mean, I remember Jack Hunter, when he was on my show, he was saying that the natural tendency of movements is breakup. So if you have some sort of movement that can combine forces and increase its size, then you've got something special. But yeah, I think I'm gonna start wrapping it up here. Oh, we got another super chat. Congratulations on 6,000. Keep that mustache sexy. Thank you. That's one of Ryan Dawson's fans right there, by the way. I appreciate all the Ryan people coming over here. I'm going to change your mind on open borders. Ryan's wrong on that. So just, hang out here and I'll show you that, some of the more libertarian positions, you don't have to be a fucking blue pill wuss to hold them. You can still be based and, you can be a based anarchist, like Kerry Wedler. You don't have to be one of these cringe, like Cato Institute type, like pearl clutching lowberts to believe in things like that. But yeah, I'm gonna head out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the next video, and I'll see you at 7,000 subscribers if I make it that long. I am also on BitChute, or sorry, not BitChute. Wow, I'm sorry, Drew or Jeremy, if you're watching this. I'm on Odyssey, so go check me out on Odyssey. Go follow me there. Oh, I got one more super chat, and then we're gonna kill it. Ryan's wrong on some, but he's right on more. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, by the way, like, I don't know where this idea that because you have someone on your show means that you agree with them on everything. There's nobody that I've ever had on here that I agree with on everything. Never. So, if we can team up and take on the truly ugly powers that be with all our different strong suits of knowledge, that's what I'm all about. But I will catch you guys later.